He smelled faintly of lemon polish and regret, a ghost in the periphery of ambition. Welcome back, fellow seekers of wonder, to a tale that will make you question the shadows we cast and the light we often overlook. If you haven't already, consider joining our circle by hitting that subscribe button, because today we delve into the quiet power of the underestimated. The Dragon's Fist Dojo was a cathedral of discipline, a symphony of grunts and focused breathing. Sunlight, when it managed to pierce the high windows, illuminated dust motes dancing in the air, oblivious to the sweat and aspiration that permeated the mats below. It was a place of polished wood, crisp white GIs, and the rhythmic thud of feet meeting padded targets. And in its midst, a constant, almost invisible fixture, Mr. Henderson. Mr. Henderson was the dojo's janitor. Not a janitor, mind you, but the janitor. He was a man etched by time, with a perpetually stooped posture that seemed to suggest the weight of every floor he'd ever mopped. His uniform was always impeccably clean, a testament to his own quiet fastidiousness. Yet it seemed to melt into the background, just another part of the dojo's functional machinery. His face was a roadmap of wrinkles, each line a silent testament to untold stories, but his eyes, a washed-out blue, held a peculiar, almost distant serenity. He moved with a methodical slowness, a deliberate grace that belied his age, pushing his mop bucket with a gentle hum, wiping down mirrors with painstaking care, and sweeping stray dust bunnies into oblivion. He was the first to arrive each morning, long before the most dedicated sensei, and the last to leave after the last student had departed, leaving the dojo pristine for another day of martial artistry. To the students, he was a silent sentinel, a part of the dojo's furniture. They'd nod, maybe a perfunctory gesture of acknowledgement, but mostly they'd simply move around him, their minds focused on katas, sparring techniques, and the pursuit of their next belt. He was the backdrop against which their dreams of mastery played out. Even the senseis, with their enlightened perspectives and emphasis on respect, treated him with a polite but distant professionalism. He cleaned, they taught, a simple, unspoken contract. The dojo itself was the brainchild of Master Tanaka, a man whose presence filled a room even when he wasn't speaking. Master Tanaka had built Dragon's Fist from the ground up, forging it into one of the most respected martial arts institutions in the city. His philosophy was simple. Martial arts wasn't just about fighting. It was about discipline, respect, humility, and the cultivation of inner strength. Ironically, some of those very tenets seemed to bypass Mr. Henderson entirely. The dojo was a hive of activity. Young children, buzzing with boundless energy, learned the very basics, their shouts echoing off the walls. Teenagers, caught between awkward growth spurts and burgeoning confidence, drilled complex forms, their movements still a little clumsy, but filled with earnest effort. And then there were the adults, a diverse group of professionals, white-collar workers, and even a few grizzled veterans, all seeking something: fitness, self-defense, or perhaps a spiritual anchor in the turbulent seas of modern life. Among the adult students was a particularly vocal group, led by a man named Victor. Victor was a self-made entrepreneur, loud, brash, and dripping with an almost aggressive confidence. He drove an expensive car, wore a designer GI, and spoke in declarative sentences that left little room for dissent. Victor saw martial arts as a path to dominance, a way to project power, and he was always keen to demonstrate his prowess, sometimes to the point of showing off. He often complained about Mr. Henderson, albeit under his breath, grumbling about the old man getting in the way or the smell of chemicals. His disdain, though never openly aggressive, was palpable, a subtle undercurrent in the dojo's otherwise harmonious atmosphere. One evening, after a particularly grueling sparring session, Victor and a few of his cronies were gathered in the changing room, their voices carrying easily through the thin walls. Mr. Henderson was quietly collecting discarded towels. Honestly, Victor scoffed, flexing a bicep. I don't know why we even have that old geezer here. He just shuffles around, probably costing Tanaka a fortune in wages. Could get a younger, faster guy to do half the job in half the time. One of his friends chuckled. Yeah, and probably a cleaner job too. I saw him almost trip over his own mop today. Mr. Henderson, if he heard, gave no indication. His movements remained slow, deliberate, a silent rebuke to their casual cruelty. He simply gathered the towels, his back to them, and exited the changing room, the faint scent of lemon lingering in his wake. This was the general sentiment. Mr. Henderson was an afterthought, a background He was good at his job in an antiquated, slow way, but he wasn't important. Not like the senseis, not like Master Tanaka, and certainly not like the rising stars of the dojo who were already imagining themselves as black belts, their names etched in the dojo's Hall of Fame. They saw only his age, his quiet demeanor, his humble role. They didn't see the keen intelligence in his eyes, nor the quiet dignity in his movements. They saw a janitor, nothing more. Then came the news that rocked the Dragon's Fist Dojo to its core. Master Tanaka, a man who seemed to embody strength and resilience, was facing a grave challenge. Not from a rival dojo, not from a street thug, but from a cunning, ruthless corporate entity. A large, predatory real estate development firm, Omnicorp, had set its sights on the entire block where the dojo stood. They wanted to build a luxury high-rise, and Dragon's Fist, a cherished community landmark for decades, was merely an inconvenient obstacle. At first, Master Tanaka tried to fight them off through legal channels. He had loyal lawyers, a strong community backing, and the moral high ground. But Omnicorp was a behemoth with endless resources and a legal team that specialized in grinding down smaller opponents. They uncovered obscure zoning laws, alleged code violations, and even managed to entangle the dojo's finances in frivolous lawsuits. The dojo, a place of peace and strength, was slowly being strangled. Morale plummeted. The vibrant energy that once filled the dojo began to wane. Students whispered anxiously in corners, their focus on training wavering. Some even started to leave, seeking other dojos that didn't carry the heavy cloud of impending closure. Victor, ever the pragmatist, was among the loudest proponents of cutting their losses. Master Tanaka, with all due respect, Victor declared during a tense meeting of senior students, we need to be realistic. Omnicorp has unlimited funds. We can't fight them. We should just sell, get what we can, and maybe start a new dojo somewhere else. Master Tanaka, his face etched with worry but his resolve still firm, shook his head. This isn't just a building, Victor. This is a home, a legacy. We fight for what we believe in. But the fight was draining him physically and spiritually. His usual powerful presence seemed diminished. His movements were a little slower, and his voice was a little softer. The weight of the dojo's fate rested squarely on his shoulders. Days turned into weeks, and the situation grew dire. Omnicorp filed an eviction notice, giving the dojo only 2 months to vacate the premises. The news hit like a gut punch. 2 months. 2 months to find a miracle. Panic rippled through the remaining students. How could they possibly save their beloved dojo? One evening, after an especially somber training session, Master Tanaka sat alone in his office, the dojo dark and silent around him, save for the faint hum of Mr. Henderson's floor buffer in the distance. He stared at the eviction notice, his hands clenched into fists, not of aggression, but of impotent frustration. He felt like a general who had lost his army, a warrior stripped of his weapons. He had fought countless battles in the dojo, but this was a war he didn't know how to win. Suddenly, a soft knock at his office door. Master Tanaka looked up, surprised. It was Mr. Henderson, holding his mop and bucket, his face impassive. "Master Tanaka," he said, his voice surprisingly soft, a little raspy from disuse. "Pardon my intrusion, but I couldn't help but overhear the situation with Omni Corporation." Master Tanaka sighed, rubbing his temples. "It's grim, Mr. Henderson. Very grim." Mr. Henderson nodded slowly, his gaze drifting to the eviction notice on Tanaka's desk. "They're a tough outfit, known for their aggressive tactics." Master Tanaka raised an eyebrow. "You know of them?" "Oh, yes," Mr. Henderson replied, a faint, almost imperceptible shift in his eyes. "I know Omnicorp very well." He paused, then continued. "Master Tanaka, forgive my impertinence, but have you considered challenging them on their methodology?" Tanaka blinked. "Methodology? What do you mean?" "Their acquisition process," Mr. Henderson clarified. "They often target properties with historical significance, or properties owned by long-standing community figures. They rely on the owners being emotionally invested and therefore predictable." Master Tanaka stared at the janitor, a flicker of something new in his eyes. This was not the voice of a simple cleaning man. There was a precision, an almost clinical detachment in Mr. Henderson's words. "And what exactly are you suggesting, Mr. Henderson?" Tanaka asked, a cautious curiosity now mixing with his despair. The old janitor finally met his gaze, and for the first time, Master Tanaka saw not the faded blue eyes of a tired old man, but the sharp, discerning gaze of someone who had seen much, understood more, and perhaps harbored secrets. "I am suggesting, Master Tanaka," Mr. Henderson said, his voice dropping to a near whisper, "that perhaps you are fighting this battle with the wrong weapons. They expect brute force legal battles. What if you gave them something entirely different?" The next morning, Mr. Henderson was still pushing his mop, still wiping down mirrors, but now a strange undercurrent of speculation followed him. Master Tanaka had called a sudden, urgent meeting of his senior students and senseis, a meeting from which Mr. Henderson was pointedly not excluded. In fact, Master Tanaka had personally invited him. The meeting room was tense. Master Tanaka stood before them, his usual air of authority tempered by a new, almost bewildered humility. "My friends," he began, his voice firm, "we are facing an insurmountable challenge. Our legal options are exhausted. Our financial resources are dwindling. But last night," he paused, his gaze sweeping over the faces, lingering on Mr. Henderson, who sat quietly in a back corner, "I had a conversation that has given me a new perspective." Victor, ever impatient, spoke up. "With all due respect, Master, what perspective? We're being evicted. Unless you've suddenly found a hidden benefactor, I don't see how we can possibly win." Master Tanaka held up a hand. "Please, Victor, listen. Mr. Henderson, would you mind explaining your thoughts to the group?" All eyes turned to Mr. Henderson. He seemed to shrink under the sudden spotlight, his usual quiet demeanor amplified by the unexpected attention. He took a deep breath and then, slowly, began to speak. "My apologies for presuming to advise," he started, his voice still soft, but gaining a subtle firmness. "But I have prior experience with entities like Omni Corporation." Victor snorted. "Prior experience? Cleaning their corporate offices, perhaps." A few nervous titters rippled through the room. Master Tanaka shot Victor a glare. Mr. Henderson, however, did not react. He simply continued, his gaze steady. "For many years before I came here, I was involved in corporate real estate, specifically in what you might call strategic acquisitions." The room fell silent. Jaws began to drop. Victor's scoff died in his throat. "Strategic acquisitions," Mr. Henderson elaborated, "often involve identifying vulnerabilities. Omni Corp thrives on the perception of invincibility. They expect resistance, but they expect predictable resistance. Legal challenges, protests, petitions, these are all within their playbook. They have countermeasures for everything. But what they don't anticipate is a challenge that exposes their own vulnerabilities." He paused, then delivered the bombshell. "What if you were to expose their own internal ethical failings? Their corporate culture? Their internal practices?" Victor, still reeling, managed to stammer. "But how? We're just a dojo. What do we know about Omni Corp's internal workings?" Mr. Henderson's faint smile, a slow, knowing curl of his lips, was chilling. "I know quite a bit. You see," he said, and now his voice held an almost imperceptible tremor of something akin to bitterness. "I used to be a senior partner at the law firm that OmniCorp almost exclusively uses. In fact, I helped build some of their most aggressive acquisition strategies. Before I retired, the silence in the room was deafening. The revelation hung in the air, heavy and unbelievable. The quiet janitor, the one who smelled of lemon polish and regret, had once been a legal titan, an architect of the very tactics now threatening their dojo. The irony was a physical presence in the room, pressing down on everyone. Master Tanaka finally broke the spell. "Mr. Henderson, what exactly do you propose?" Mr. Henderson straightened slightly, and for the first time, the stoop in his shoulders seemed to lessen. "I propose we fight them not with a sword, but with a scalpel. We don't challenge their legal rights to the property. We challenge their public image, their investor relations, their reputation. OmniCorp is a publicly traded company. Reputation is everything. If their acquisition methods are perceived as unethical, predatory, or even just bad optics, their stock price will suffer. Their investors will get nervous. And a nervous investor is a powerful weapon against corporate arrogance. Over the next few weeks, the Dragon's Fist Dojo underwent a transformation. Training continued, but with a renewed sense of purpose. Mr. Henderson, once a ghost in the background, was now a quiet, indispensable presence in the foreground. He moved with a new spring in his step, his eyes no longer distant, but focused, sharp, and alight with a purpose that had long been dormant. He started by meticulously gathering every piece of public information about Omnicorp he could find: old press releases, financial reports, news articles, social media mentions. He taught Master Tanaka and a few trusted students how to spot patterns, how to identify weaknesses in Omnicorp's carefully constructed facade. He explained the intricate dance of corporate law, the subtle pressures exerted by stakeholders, and the delicate balance of public perception. He guided them in crafting a narrative, not one of victimhood, but of community resilience in the face of corporate greed. They didn't directly accuse Omnicorp of anything illegal, but they meticulously documented every instance of their aggressive tactics, their targeting of community institutions, and their history of displacing small businesses for profit. They framed it not as a legal battle, but as a moral one. Victor, initially skeptical and even a little resentful of Mr. Henderson's sudden prominence, found himself slowly won over. He saw the methodical brilliance in Mr. Henderson's approach, the quiet, understated power of his intellect. He even found himself taking notes, listening intently, his usual bluster replaced by a newfound respect. Mr. Henderson, the janitor, was teaching them all a lesson in strategic thinking, a different kind of martial art altogether. The dojo started a grassroots media campaign. Not aggressive protests, but carefully worded press releases, heartfelt letters to local newspapers, and a sophisticated social media presence that highlighted the dojo's history, its community contributions, and the quiet dignity of its fight. They invited local journalists to special training sessions, showcasing the dojo's values and its positive impact on countless lives. Mr. Henderson coached Master Tanaka on how to speak to the media, how to frame the narrative, how to appear strong yet vulnerable, determined yet reasonable. He taught him about optics, about the power of a carefully chosen phrase, about the subtle art of influencing public opinion. He was a master tactician, his mind still sharp as a freshly honed blade, despite years of pushing a mop. The twist wasn't just that he was a former high-powered lawyer. It was why he was a janitor. Mr. Henderson revealed his story to Master Tanaka in a private moment, a quiet confession under the soft glow of the dojo's emergency lights after everyone else had gone home. He had burned out, he explained, after years of defending corporate entities, often against individuals and small businesses much like the dojo. He had become disillusioned, disgusted by the ethical compromises he was forced to make, as well as the relentless pursuit of profit at the expense of humanity. He had walked away from a multi-million-dollar career, seeking anonymity and a quiet life of simple, honest labor. He found peace in the rhythmic swish of a mop, the clean scent of polish, and the uncomplicated satisfaction that came with a job well done. He had retreated from the world of power and influence, hoping to escape the very beast he was now forced to confront. The irony was not lost on him. This quiet, understated approach began to work. Local news picked up the story. The tale of the beloved community dojo fighting off a faceless corporation resonated with people. The public, tired of seeing local businesses crushed by large developers, rallied behind Dragon's Fist. Petitions circulated not just within the community, but online, garnering thousands of signatures. Calls flooded OmniCorp's public relations department. Their stock, which had been steadily climbing, began to wobble. Investors, always sensitive to negative press, started to ask questions. The OmniCorp executives, blindsided by this unexpected form of resistance, initially dismissed it as a minor annoyance. But the pressure mounted. Their carefully curated image of a benevolent, progress-driven corporation was being chipped away. The narrative shifted from efficient urban development to corporate bully targeting a cherished community institution. Then came the true turning point. Mr. Henderson, with his intimate knowledge of OmniCorp's legal team and their past cases, identified a specific pattern. He had noticed a series of remarkably similar cases where OmniCorp had used the same aggressive, borderline unethical tactics to acquire properties, often leaving a trail of financially ruined small business owners in their wake. He meticulously documented these cases, cross-referencing public records and news archives to build an irrefutable paper trail. He didn't just find one instance. He found a dozen. Armed with this damning evidence, Master Tanaka, guided by Mr. Henderson, held a press conference. He didn't rant or rail. He simply presented the facts, quietly, calmly, with a weight of moral authority that was undeniable. He showed the pattern, the calculated aggression, the disregard for community. He exposed OmniCorp's methodology, not as shrewd business, but as systemic predation. The backlash was swift and severe. OmniCorp's stock took a significant hit. Major news outlets picked up the story, casting the company in a harsh, unflattering light. Their carefully constructed image was shattered. Investors, once confident, now saw a company whose practices threatened their returns. The pressure became unbearable. Less than a week later, OmniCorp rescinded its eviction notice. Not only that, but they offered to sell the entire block, including the dojo, to Master Tanaka for a nominal fee, conditional on the agreement that Dragon's Fist would cease all public campaigns against them. It was a humiliating retreat for the corporate giant, a victory achieved not through brute force, but through strategic intelligence and a deep understanding of leverage. The dojo was saved. The students erupted in cheers, their relief palpable. Master Tanaka, his eyes filled with gratitude, clasped Mr. Henderson's hand, a silent acknowledgement of the debt they all owed him. Victor, his face a mixture of awe and profound embarrassment, approached Mr. Henderson. Mr. Henderson, he began, his voice uncharacteristically humble. I owe you an apology. We all did. We judged you. We didn't see you. We were blind. Mr. Henderson simply nodded, his eyes crinkling at the corners. It's understandable, Victor. People often see what they expect to see, and sometimes what they expect isn't always the truth. He continued to work at the dojo, still cleaning, still maintaining. But now, he was no longer invisible. Students greeted him with genuine respect, often stopping to chat, to ask his advice on matters far beyond cleaning supplies. Master Tanaka consulted with him regularly, not just on dojo matters, but sometimes on life itself. Mr. Henderson, the quiet janitor, had become the dojo's silent guardian, its unlikely savior, a living embodiment of the lesson that true strength often lies in unexpected places, concealed behind a humble exterior. The shock factor? Months later, a curious student searching for legal precedents for a school project stumbled upon an old article. A prominent profile of a retired legal giant, a man renowned for his sharp intellect and a staggering array of corporate victories. The photo, though aged and slightly blurred, was unmistakable. It was Mr. Henderson, but the name under the photo wasn't Henderson. It was a name that had once struck fear into the hearts of corporate rivals. The student rushed to Master Tanaka, the article clutched in his hand. Master Tanaka simply smiled, a knowing glint in his eye. Some people, he said, prefer to leave their old lives behind. And some people, he added, looking towards the dojo entrance, where Mr. Henderson was just arriving with his mop bucket, find true purpose in simplicity. He never pressed Mr. Henderson on the name, understanding that some truths are best left unspoken, a quiet dignity preserved. What quiet strengths do we overlook in the people we encounter every day? Thank you for joining us for this tale of unexpected wisdom and the power of seeing beyond the surface. If this story resonated with you, please leave a comment below, share your thoughts, and don't forget to like this video and subscribe for more stories of wonder. See you next time.